We've been awaiting Brazilian police to talk about the U.S. swimmers controversy, the U.S. Olympic swimmers who the dispute is over whether they were held at gunpoint or not and the incident that unfolded after. Police are now speaking about it. Let's listen in.
Senão a gente inviabilizaria isso. Então vamos falar em português. Se houver alguém que não compreenda, depois a gente pode tentar atender de forma separada, mas não há maneira de se fazer aqui em duas línguas, apesar de haver muita imprensa estrangeira aqui. Eu queria... Sim, meu nome é Fernando Veloso, eu sou chefe da Polícia Civil do Estado do Rio de Janeiro, estou acompanhado pelo Dr. Alexandre Braga.
And you can see that this is actually in Portuguese. We are expecting the English translation. They're going to be going back and forth, speaking in both Portuguese. Obviously, the Brazilian people very interested in this live press conference, as are English speakers who are all part of the Olympic teams also as well. We believe that this could be the chief of police here speaking and addressing the crowd of journalists who are interested in exactly what transpired between four U.S. Olympic swimmers early Sunday morning. The swimmers said that they were held at gunpoint at one point in the morning. And we're going to go in and dip in to see exactly what they have to say, if this is possibly the English version now.
Passar toda a evolução desde o momento em que a polícia tomou conhecimento desses fatos até o dia de hoje. Talvez algumas informações nós não possamos fornecer porque esse trabalho não está concluído. A investigação não terminou, o trabalho não está concluído, então é possível que algumas informações a gente não possa fornecer para vocês. Passaremos todas as que nós possamos divulgar. Ao final disso, eu vou tentar fazer uma breve explanação para vocês aqui, para tentar nivelar o conhecimento. O Dr. Braga vai fazer os comentários dele, descendo a um detalhamento maior, e em seguida a gente vai tentar responder perguntas. Dado o número de pessoas aqui, eu vou pedir encarecidamente que vocês próprios se organizem. Levantem. Eu não quero usar o poder de império aqui, estabelecer uma regra, a gente podia pedir para anotar o nome.
And the chief of police here speaking and explaining to the crowd here that they are going to try and explain and summarize the events, exactly how they transpired according to the police account, to counter what the U.S. Olympic athletes were saying. They're going to decide, tell people exactly what had happened, and then they're going to take questions. It's going to go between English and Portuguese, as I explained. And what we know now is the U.S. athletes did admit to actually being drunk that early Sunday morning. But it was Ryan Lochte's account, as we understand it to be, is that they took a taxi, and at some point they were held at gunpoint. A gun actually pointed to his forehead, according to his account, from what we've heard. And then at that point, the people holding them up had asked for money. The police are now saying that there is a very different account, and there are reports that there is a very different account, that they were inside a bathroom and that they broke down the door of the bathroom. They urinated around that area. The people there at that gas station of that bathroom had asked them specifically for money to help pay for the bathroom door. Apparently that money had transpired, they had paid for it, and then they walked out and entered a car. And there's video showing them leaving the gas station, and then security officials also at one point confronting them as well. It's our understanding that the security guards were armed, but the dispute is whether or not a gun was at some point truly held to them at gunpoint. We know Ryan Lochte has returned back to the U.S., but three of his U.S. Olympic athletes were pulled off of a plane and they remain in Brazil. Let's listen in and see what police have to say.
From the supposed victims or other sources, but it was contradictory from the very beginning. Dr. Braga's team proceeded with their work, and we started getting little by little information, which began to clarify how the facts indeed occurred. The first information that the police became aware of was of a driver who was driving two young women who were leaving an event, and he heard from these two young women that what's the word to use? They'd stayed with the swimmers. They'd stayed with the swimmers. And this driver, when he heard the news, he called in the information that he heard from his taxi, and he brought this to the attention of the police unit, and that began to tell us that the athletes, or at least one of them, had a motive, perhaps to tell a story that was different from the real one. This had not been disseminated previously. Now we can reveal this. Several measures were taken. We looked for images. We collected images from closed-circuit cameras at the gas station and other places and their arrival at the Olympic Village, and we began to investigate. The unit for serving citizens is a special unit to liaison with the citizens, and we sought people who had the real version of what happened, and that this perhaps was not a real robbery, but they entered in contact with the police chief's headquarters, and these individuals, these citizens who said they had knowledge of the true happenings, were reluctant to enter in contact with the police because they were afraid of retaliation, because these were international athletes and there might be retaliation. It took us a while to communicate with these individuals. They understood the importance. These were the security guards who have already been interviewed by the police, and based on their testimony, we began to build the real story of what happened. Based on those, the testimony of those security guards, we started interviewing other witnesses. One of those witnesses just arrived at the unit now and is being interviewed. As I said, this is currently in action. We're still interviewing people. The driver who drove the athletes also has been interviewed. He appeared at the unit. He was interviewed, and he confirmed the version that the police thought was probable. The police detectives were put into action and began to do their work at the gas station, and apparently were able to determine that acts of vandalism had been perpetrated by one or more of the athletes. Perhaps Dr. Braga can give more details. Those are the details we have, but I'll try to diminish the number of questions you have and try to give as much information as we have. No questions for the moment, please. At this exact moment, what the police can confirm is there was no robbery in the way that it was reported by the athletes. They were not the victim of the criminal facts that they described. The police can already confirm this. Since there are still investigations, ongoing investigations, as a matter of fact, with interviews with two of the athletes, we don't have the complete picture, so we can't answer all of your questions. What crimes will they have to answer for? We can't answer that. Why? Because we are still trying to conclude our investigation. We have to finish hearing everybody. We need to see what the conduct of each athlete, to see if they have any responsibility for those acts. What is the most likely story, the real story? And again, we're still hearing witness testimony, and the story can change. So it's already premature to talk about any repercussions. The athletes left where they were coming from. They went to the gas station, they went to the bathroom, and on purpose, one or more than one of them, we're still investigating, began to commit acts of vandalism in the bathroom at the gas station,
confusão que foi provocada ali, chamou a atenção
breaking
dos funcionários do posto, como as imagens também mostram,
mirrors and other equipment. This led to a certain confusion at the gas station. Employees of the gas station tried to control this situation. The images also show the athletes going back to the cab and trying to leave the location. When the employees noticed what was happening, the security guard tried to convince the cab driver to wait for the police and to not leave the scene. Apparently, these facts have been confirmed, and there's no doubt about them. The athletes did not want to stay. They did not want to await the arrival of the police. In that meantime, a third individual offered to help as an interpreter because the security guard did not speak English, the athletes did not speak Portuguese, and this third individual, who was a witness, if he has not been interviewed, is being interviewed or will be soon. And he tried to interpret between the parties that they had committed acts of vandalism and that had created damages for the establishment and they needed to pay. According to the reports, they offered to pay, and they did pay. Just a minute. We agreed that I would finish first. I will try to give you as much information to try to limit the number of questions. I will give you the details of the names. I'm trying to help you as much as possible. One of them has confirmed this version. So that's one more element that effectively confirms this version. Were there any arms? The images that have been disseminated, plus the witness testimony of the drivers and the security guards, make clear that there was no violence practiced at any moment while they were there. They were not victims of physical violence or any type of violence or anything that might lead them to believe that they were being robbed. There was no evidence of physical violence. The images show where they are asked to sit down. One of them tries to stand up, but even then, there is no evidence of any kind of violence committed against the athletes. So nothing would have justified their notion that they were victims of crimes or robberies or anything of the type. I think that's all I have to say. Were any arms brandished? Mr. Braga, if I have omitted anything, please feel free, and then we'll ask questions. But please raise your hands only when Mr. Braga finishes. Your description was very detailed. It's pretty much, you pretty much exhausted everything we have to say. So please raise your hands. Let's start with the ladies. Was an arm ever brandished? Why would they have invented this version?
Vamos lá, mas é bom, pode ser de hoje. Se houve arma apontada são três perguntas. Então,
you asked three questions. I asked you to ask one question each.
Vamos lá, mas é bom, pode ser de hoje. Foi qual o relato dessas meninas
What motive? The first version, the police had no information, very little information, and it was contradictory information. So the first thing that emerged is that these girls, through their testimony, there was a motive. So if if this athlete had a relationship which he doesn't want to be disseminated abroad, he all of a sudden has a motive to hide when we know he has a relationship outside the... This is not. This is simply a suspicion. When we became aware of this, this driver brought this information. He was heard. This was never disseminated. Now we are disseminated to create a narrative. Your third question. The police went to the location. We don't have the complete report, so I can't answer yet. We have to wait the response from the military police. But preliminarily, we know that the military police was called. When they arrived at the scene, the situation had already been resolved. It was confusion that had occurred. So the state of Rio, I can't tell you off the top of my head, but in 1 year, they make almost, they have over 1 million reports. So this was simply one event, but once we have the report, it'll help us construct the facts. On this side, please. Man and then a woman. Did they admit that they lied at any moment? Did they admit that they gave false information? The two that are being heard now, who had not been heard previously, you already know that they were not allowed to travel and they were taken off an airplane. They are being interviewed now. The first one has concluded his witness testimony. An interpreter was translating and he was signing as we left his testimony, and he admitted this version. He confirmed the version that I just told you. Who was that? He never lied because he never gave testimony in the first place, but he simply told us which one of them was lying. What's his name? We'll have to get back to you on that. We'll have to get back to you. Now another reporter, a female reporter. They're being heard now. Who pointed the weapon? Was it an employee? The security guard? For the gas station. Please raise your hands. Who? Now a female reporter. I wanted to know who pointed the weapon, who was it pointed at, and the fact that a weapon was pointed. Could that be extortion? Did they feel that they were obliged to give the money? It depends on the circumstances. What do we need to know? We have to finish our investigation. For now, there's nothing that indicates this. For now, we have the report of the security guard who reported an extreme behavior by 4 youths, strong youths, and inappropriate behavior, at the minimum inadequate behavior, breaking things, and exhibiting a tendency to continue this level of violence, so to say. So in a situation such as this, in principle, it seems justified, because if I have a weapon, I can't allow anybody to get near my weapon, and if I need to contain that person's behavior, at a certain moment I can brandish that weapon. But your question is, was it excessive, the use of that weapon? Maybe yes, maybe not. It depends on the circumstances. But up until now, nothing indicates an excessive use of the weapons, but we're still taking testimony. Others will be heard. There may be some new news, but that's based on what we know. Based on the athlete who's already been heard, according to the police officer who's investigating him, that did not occur. This as per the athlete himself. But remember, the investigation is ongoing. Only one employee had a weapon. I am not certain. You're going to have to please accept the fact that we're still interviewing individuals. So we don't have the full picture. If we were to read all of the testimonies, forensics are investigating the area. And if we were to try to answer all your questions, we would not be able to do our work. So keep that in mind with your questions. Thank you for the opportunity. So this story was apparently fabricated. Ryan Lochte.
A primeira resposta é sim, para a gente não ter sim.
Interpreter can't hear the question.
Vamos responder então, porque eu esqueci de falar, isso pode ser importante.
This type of crime, what kind of penalties typically exist for such a kind of crime? Would it be community service or jail? We have not reached any conclusion of the type so far. That's why I began to say we need to conclude our investigations first. If, in fact, it is confirmed that certain illicit behavior occurred, according to Brazilian law, it may, and it depends on our investigations. In normal situations, I would never respond to such a question because we try not to speculate. But theoretically, they might have to respond for false reports, one or several, for falsely reporting a crime and for damage to property. So that's only theoretically. I'm in no way saying, and I'll say it several ways so you can't misinterpret what I'm saying. I am not saying that they are going to be formally charged for anything. We have to finish our investigation, and at some moment that might be that might occur. But in principle, we have nothing to lead. We cannot reach that conclusion.
Tá bom, desculpa, pedido da assessora de comunicação tem que atender. Fala. Quanto a esse atleta, nós já fomos procurados pela OAB, o representante da OAB, no sentido de apresentá-lo para que ele seja ouvido. Isso ainda não aconteceu. Já houve contato.
With regards to that athlete, we've been informed that he needs to appear to be heard. That has not happened yet. We asked that he appear, but that has not occurred so far.
Vamos lá, vamos com o colega lá atrás, vai. Sim. Quanto a identidade.
The security guard who had brandished this weapon, is he with the police and is the weapon registered? With regards to the identity of the security guard, one of the requests they made, because they are reluctant that there might be some retaliation, they asked that their identity not be revealed. And we guaranteed that that would not happen. So they are completely within, their situation is in no way suspect. They're registered adequately, and if that weren't the case, they would have to answer for that.
Vai na mulher e volta em você. Lá atrás, pronto. Lá atrás, aquela menina lá. Ele diz que como é o nome dele?
This athlete who confirmed the version, did he say why did they commit these acts of vandalism? Had they had too much to drink? Ryan. He said that Ryan was the one who was most upset. And he attributes this. We just heard this now.
Doutora Thalita vai pegar todas as pendências que a gente vai deixar aqui com vocês e vai passar para vocês, eu me comprometo. Dos dois, que eu não sei qual foi. Vocês estavam ansiosos. Dos dois a gente vai confirmar isso para vocês.
We'll have to get back to you.
Interior lá daquele estabelecimento. Todas as pendências que a gente vai deixar aqui com vocês e vai passar para vocês, eu me comprometo.
We will try to supply you with one of the two, I'm not sure who, attributed the extreme conduct to Ryan. He said he was he was intoxicated and under the effects of alcohol.
Droga. Não, hoje ainda não dá para responder se foi só ele o responsável. Isso seria uma presunção prematura. No final da investigação a gente vai saber disso. Ao final do trabalho, hoje ainda não dá para dar a palavra para ela que ela tá. Se foi só ele o responsável. Isso seria uma
We still can't answer if he's the only one that is responsible. At the end of our investigation, we will be able to tell you.
Pela polícia para aparecerem lá na delegacia e só o Félix que não apareceu. Esses outros dois só receberam indicações. Por que eles não receberam nós não permitiram?
Question cannot be heard.
Olha, a gente apresentou atividade ordinária.
It was a matter of days.
Normalmente, ela continua para delegacia de entender.
Just so that you will understand better, the Olympic Games are still ongoing. The police's day-to-day activities go on. Police stations are open and doing there's a tremendous demand now for their services because of the Olympic Games. So several police forces, both local, state, and federal, are having to coordinate their activities. The Command and Control Center for the Olympics is trying to coordinate all the activities through that general coordination. We took this information to the Olympic Committee and through other channels such as the consulate. I forgot to mention the representative of the U.S. consulate are accompanying events. I invited them to participate in this press conference. They preferred not to. So as soon as this information, it was a matter of days before that information was relayed. But they were notified, and we need to give them that we need to do it within a certain time. It wasn't a long time. When we heard news that they were leaving by airplane, it became clear that they had no intention to cooperate. But all legal measures that can be adopted, we always have acted within the law and never tried to go without exaggerating our... But keeping in mind that we have our day-to-day activities, but when we learned that they were leaving, that was an obvious sign that they did not want to cooperate. So, Dr. Braga, to us, that was a clear-cut sign that they did not want to cooperate.
Não vai falar, abrir mão? Tá bom. Então vou passar para ele aqui. É homem, é vez de homem agora. Você está vendo algum nariz aqui, não? Só que eu vou responder.
The attorney for Lochte said that the Brazilian police overreached.
Só que eu vou responder para esse advogado. É advogado?
Is he an attorney?
Eu acho que a colocação dele merece uma resposta como essa. Aqui não tem ninguém com nariz de palhaço. Nariz de bola.
We don't have anyone with a clown nose here. I'm sorry for using humor, but I think we have no one here with a clown's nose. I think his comments merit that response. Whose
FBI tem
idea
acompanhado
was it
as ações,
to
solicitaram isso e foi concedido isso, eles têm acompanhado as ações.
to
empreendidas
contradict?
pela
And
Polícia
will
do Rio,
will
através da
Ryan
DEAT.
Lochte be heard in the
Nós já
U.S.?
estamos alinhavando essa
The
operação
FBI has
através da
accompanied
para que ele seja ouvido lá,
what we have
através da expedição
done.
de uma carta rogatória.
They have accompanied our actions.
Pela Polícia do Rio, através da DEAT. Isso aconteça, nós já estamos alinhando essa cooperação através
So
da
that
DEAT.
cooperation with the FBI, so that he be heard
E
there
ela é cumprida através do apoio da polícia
through a letter of an letter of rogatory, they have to agree. And if they agree, we will ask for a letter rogatory. And through local police, the FBI has offered their services, but I can't confirm whether that will happen because we would need their cooperation.
A questão, eles atribuem ao Ryan essa articulação, mas isso é preliminar, isso é em tese.
That is still preliminary. It's
A
premature.
necessidade era que eles fossem ouvidos para que eles colaborassem na
Those
investigação
that have
desses
been
fatos.
heard, will they stay in Brazil? And how about their passports? They're being heard at the moment.
Era que eles fossem ouvidos
We needed to hear them so that they could corroborate in our investigation as to the facts. I think Dr. Braga can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see any necessity for them to stay after they have given their version and collaborated with our investigation. And one of the witnesses, his testimony is in alignment with all our evidence, and it coincides with what the other witnesses say and with the images. So, but the decision is not for the police to take. We will simply confirm that we have no more need of them testifying. And how about the third one? Is that true for all three of them? Yes, all three of them.
Não vamos suspender o negócio. Deixa ela lá atrás que ela está tempão, aí eu passo para você, tá?
Have they shown any remorse? Have they apologized for their behavior and causing such a scandal? And what has the negative effect been for a city that is, after all, very violent, and real things have occurred with other athletes? Have they expressed any remorse?
A gente está tratando de pessoas importantes. A gente está tratando de.
We're dealing with important matters. These are public figures. They influence others. They influence large levels of society. So they should have a behavior, a model behavior. So I think yes. But they're human beings. They commit mistakes, right? They were under the influence. So an apology should not be for the police officer or to me. It should be to our city, and who saw our city stained by a fantastical version. We know that it's a fantastical version. We know what really happened. So I think it would be noble of them to apologize to the Cariocas, to the citizens of Rio. What was the other question? If they actually apologized during the deposition. No, they didn't. But not up until the moment that I was there. But if they did afterwards, I don't know. And the British delegation said there was another athlete who was robbed and who was very shocked. Are you aware of this? Yes, I have heard about this. And the unit there, the police unit, is doing their work. We're doing the same level of work, investigating. So you said Rio is a violent city. Yes, large urban centers have violence in their day-to-day. Rio has its problems, as do other cities. The question is, how do we confront our problems? We are trying to confront these issues in the best manner possible within our abilities, but we can never accept that the responsibility is only for law enforcement, is only of the police. It's for all of us, including the victim, because a victim who doesn't report to the police might be contributing to the lack of security, lack of safety. So so citizens can't only demand safety of the state. They also have the duty to do their part. So when there are public figures who don't do this and don't comply and don't do their part, I think they're not helping. Every citizen, be they Brazilian or foreign, they can criticize us, but they have a duty to bring these facts to our attention. In Rio, the police allow you to file complaints over the internet. You can file complaints on the internet. So the police has offered this service to facilitate reporting facts so that we can be aware. We have no problem filing reports, and we try to facilitate it. But as far as the British team, yes, we are investigating.
Deixa eu só. Vamos pular de cá aqui, homem.
In the beginning, there was the insinuation that there might have been extortion by the security guard.
A questão é,
Do you have any doubt?
O que interessa não são as minhas dúvidas ou as minhas certezas, ou as dúvidas ou as certezas do Dr. Braga. O que interessa é o que nós conseguimos colocar. A questão é,
might they have invented this version?
O que interessa não são as minhas dúvidas ou as minhas certezas.
Whether I have any doubts or not is not what's important, nor whether Dr. Braga has any doubts. What we're trying to do is comply with the highest level of behavior. So in our report, we were able to find evidence that indicate that it's very improbable that these facts would be interpreted in any other way. The images don't comply with what they were saying. When we talk about the use of a weapon, it seems to be of use. The weapon was used to control them. Once they were controlled, the weapon was holstered, and the interpreter, the gentleman who interpreted, said the same thing. So there was a third party who had no interest in this, who said you need to pay, and they voluntarily handed over money voluntarily to pay for the damage that they had caused. So it doesn't seem to have been extortion. That will probably be our final conclusion, but we need to wait for the conclusion of our investigations. Could the images have been edited? There were 10 minutes that were not present. Can you confirm that? The images will be submitted to the forensics of the civil police. Obviously, we have not had the time to do that yet. Forensics, the experts' report will confirm whether the images confirm with what's written on the report, and will tell us if there was any editing, what editing there was, what happened, what editing happened when, and the forensics will do this without a doubt. But obviously, these images were just delivered to forensics, so they haven't had time to do that just yet. Following up on what she said, when the arm was pointed, were they inside or outside the taxi? If I'm not mistaken, they were outside the taxi, but we can answer that in greater detail. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they were outside the cab. Could you talk about their departure? How did they depart? And did the guard have a license for his weapon? There's no problem with the weapon the security guard had. How did they depart? The gas station. How did this end? They left by cab, they left by taxi. The taxi driver says, as a matter of fact, and this has been disseminated already,
muita indignação porque queriam que o táxi fosse embora e o taxista estava.
They were really upset with the driver because they wanted him to leave, but he wanted to stay.
Você já perguntou. Tem uma mulher, deixa eu achar uma lá atrás, essa aí, vai. Quem divulga dados estatísticos no estado do Rio é o Instituto de Segurança Pública. E você tem que ter
So this was apparently a robbery that didn't happen.
Eu posso te dar esse número, eu tenho esse número.
How many robberies have happened to tourists?
Não, a gente vai te dar
The Law Enforcement Institute can give you that information. You'll have to ask them how many tourists have suffered incidents of robbery.
relato deles, sim.
But I can't answer that now. If you want that information, we'll get it. We'll get it for you. The security guards, they work at the gas station. Yes, according to what they say,
Que a
yes.
identidade dos seguranças não fosse revelada por medo de algum tipo de retaliação. Eu vou falar em português.
Do they work, are they off-duty cops? One of the requests was that the identity of the security guards not be revealed because they are afraid that there might be retaliation. That was one of the requests, and we want to comply with that. We will not reveal to the media their identity. It will be identified in the case, but we will not release that to the media.
Eu já disse que são agentes do Estado. Eu já disse isso.
I already said they are, apparently they are police officers, off-duty police officers.
Vou descer a mais detalhe. Olha só, deixa eu preciso
If there
trazer a ordem
was,
disso aqui. Vocês entendem?
if they overreached, if they exaggerated, what kind of sanctions can these police officers suffer?
Vocês entendem? Dizendo que não houve excesso.
It's conjecture. Up until now, there's absolutely nothing that shows that there was an excess. One of the athletes said there wasn't excessive behavior by the security. The way they understood it is one of their colleagues was extremely excited and behaving in extremely heated fashion.
Alcançada pelo que a lei permite, ninguém vai trocar de lugar com ninguém. Não tenha dúvida nenhuma que se qualquer conduta ali não estiver devidamente,
They did not behave within the law, they will respond to the law. But nothing so far indicates that. I can't conjecture, though. I'm not going to say if they had done this, then we don't want to waste our time talking about conjectures.
Salvo engano, ele saiu dia 15, mas eu vou ter que consultar a doutora Thalita para te responder isso, eu não tenho esse detalhe. Não, peraí, foi um homem, agora tem que ser uma mulher. Salvo engano, ele saiu dia 15, mas eu vou ter que consultar a doutora Thalita para te
I'll have to speak to Dr. Thalita to get back to
Foi um
you.
homem, agora tem que ser uma mulher. Vamos dar as camisas vermelhas.
I still have a question.
Ops, tem algum celular que está gravando que tocou.
As I understood,
Vamos lá.
the security guard didn't want them to leave because the police were about to
O crime
arrive.
de dano,
But they paid.
ele é crime de
Were
ação
they
penal
freed?
privada.
Were they let go because they
Depende da
paid? Why didn't they
manifestação
stay
do lesado.
and wait the
Nós
police?
estamos falando aqui isso em tese, porque eu nem sei se tem a
o crime de
manifestação
dano.
do
The
proprietário
crime of
que quer, ele é crime de ação
property
penal,
damage
manifestação do dano.
is a civil case. It depends on the injured party.
A polícia não pode
So-
prosseguir com a investigação por dano. Prosseguir com a
They
investigação
would
por dano,
have
pelo
to
menos
say
em
that they
tese,
want to proceed with. If the owner says I don't want to proceed, enough trouble, the police can't proceed with the case for damages. So there's no problem if it was resolved. There's no problem if they agree on a compensation and there was no physical violence. If the injured party says, okay, things have been resolved, the state can't intervene
A lei entende que
because
se a coisa está resolvida,
according to
não
the
há
law,
motivo
if
de
they resolve the case amongst themselves,
Well, the big headline from this police press conference in Brazil could probably be summed up in 2 words. According to Brazilian police, they lied. That's according to the police, who say that the swimmers, the USA swim team, Olympic swim team, who had said they were held at gunpoint, and then that a lot of events transpired after that, was not true. That there was no physical use of force, that they were not robbed, and that this was all made up.